the first meeting with our friends like that, with the usual handshake, like what's that? Yeah, hand to hand like this.
Okay, but is the handshake usually like firm, like a strong
No, not like that.
or gentle?
Yeah, gentle, like usual.
Yeah.
Gentle, yeah.
Okay. And who will read the next paragraph in parts of Northern Europe?
Who wants to read?
In parts of Northern Europe, a quick, firm shake. Let me. Okay, wait a minute.
Handshake?
Yeah. I am trying some problems with my computer. Okay, now I'm going to start. In parts of Northern Europe, a quick, firm handshake is the norm. In parts of Southern Europe, Central and South America, and a handshake is longer and warmer, with the left hand usually touching the clapped hands or elbow.
Which would be like, if you can see my picture, like this, where you grab it with the other hand also.
Yeah.
So you use two hands, maybe. Would that be true in Ecuador? Would you give like a firm handshake, not soft, but firm? Or would it be gentle?
In the United States, if you give a handshake, whether it's a woman or a man, if you give a handshake like this, very soft, they call it a dead fish. It's
So
like a fish.
Seen as a bad handshake.
Yeah, very dead. That's not good.
Well, it's culturally not correct, but okay. So in Ecuador, would it be common to give a handshake with two hands, where you grab the hand and then you put the other hand on the hand up also, or not? What do you think?
Yes, we do this
agree.
when usually we are happy to see that person, maybe. So we demonstrate a kind of kindness, things like that. But what I know that when you shake the hands firmly, this is when a person is very reliable, is trustworthy. But the person who just take very soft your hand, so this means this person is not a reliable person. That's what I know.
That's
But
right.
I'm not sure about this. But
So
that's
we
what I
share
have
that.
known. The one who shake your hand firmly, that's a person who you can trust, who is reliable. But the other ones who just touch your hand, they are not a reliable person.
That
That's why.
is a cultural thing that the United States and Ecuador would share then, but is not a thing that is shared in other countries, like in Asia, right? We just heard that in Indonesia, that is not the normal way to do it.
Yeah.
So, okay, and it says, beware in Turkey that a firm handshake is considered rude and aggressive. In certain African countries, a limp handshake is standard. Men in Islamic countries never shake hands of women outside the family. And I believe we have somebody with an Arabic name here, and I would like to see if you agree. Who is that? I don't see it.
Well,
sure.
our Indonesian
Yes.
is Arabic.
Right.
Muslim.
Yes. So in Indonesia, would men and women shake hands or not? He's not answering. Okay, we'll go on. Okay, facial expression. Okay, I think. Okay, I'll read this. Research carried off by the Paul Ekman Group, an American psychologist, showed that over 90% of common facial expressions were identified by people in very different cultures. Over 10,000 facial expressions were created for the study. and shown to different Western cultures and isolated pre-literate African groups. In general, there are several different facial expressions which correspond to different universal facial emotions. Who would like to read these here?
Happiness, raising and lowering of mouth corners, cheeks raised, and muscles around the eyes are tightened.
Mhm. Keep reading it.
Sadness,
Mhm.
lowering of mouth corners, and raising inner portion of brows. Lowering mouth. Surprise, arcing of eyebrows, eyelash pull up, and sclera exposed, mouth open.
What's sclera, Kelly?
Sclera, I think, must be the white of the eyes,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure. That's a new word for me.
Arching of the eyebrows. So I
Yeah.
guess you're surprised.
Surprise.
Oh, oh.
Okay, can you keep reading?
Fear, brows arched and pulled together, eyes wide open, mouth slightly open,
Yeah, so brows. Like this, open.
Yeah. Disgust, eyebrows lower, upper
Yeah.
lip raised, nose wrinkled, and cheeks raised.
So,
Disgust, yeah. Eyebrows lowered. Yeah. Anger, brows lower, eyes bulging. Is that the right pronunciation?
Bulging.
Bulging.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Lips pressed
Yes.
firmly.
Mhm.
and can you bulge your eyes, Kelly?
I don't think I can bulge my eyes, but you know, the eyebrows are here, right?
And the eyes bulging means the eyes are
Right.
like frogs coming out. I've
Mm.
never seen that like that.
Okay, so who can start reading hand gestures?
I'm so sorry that the person who wanted this last week is not here.
Who can read starting with hand gestures?
Android.
Thank you.
We use we use gestures as a way to emphasize points and illustrate what we are saying. Hand gestures can mean very different things in different cultures. The okay sign in Greece, Spain, or Brazil means you're calling someone and a hall. In Turkey, it's meant to be an insult towards gay people. A thumbs up in America and Europe cultures is an indicator of a job well done. However, in Greece or the Middle East, it can mean up yours.
Which is that's dirty language in English, up yours. So
which one can you
Martha
do?
from Greece is not here, right? I think
I
she's not
guess she's
here.
not.
No,
Yeah.
she's
So the
not.
thumbs up, don't do that in Greece.
So this is bad, huh?
In Greece.
I wish Martha were here so we could ask her if it's true.
In Ecuador, also, when we use kind of this, it's kind of offensive, I think. I don't know, what do you think, the other Ecuadorians?
When you do this, it's bad?
Oh, the middle finger. Yeah, the middle finger, that's
Yeah, like this.
obscene. Yes, yes. That's bad here. But the thumbs up is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is bad. Yeah.
Okay, who
Yeah,
can read
it's
curling
bad
the
here.
index finger?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Curling the index finger with the palm facing up is a common gesture that people in the United States and parts of Europe use to beckon someone to come closer. However, it is considered rude in China, East Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, and many other parts of the world. It's also considered extremely impolite to use a gesture with people. It is used only to beckon dogs in many Asian countries, and using it in the Philippines can get you arrested.
Oh, my
So
God.
we'll be careful in the
You can
Philippines.
be arrested.
Okay, we can skip this part. Let's read this about eye contact. You can read starting with eye contact.
Oh, I like the one about, I think it's gonna be, I haven't read this. It's gonna be about President.
I would like to read if you want.
Thank you.
Is Fatima going to read?
Yeah, I read.
Okay, sure. Sure, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Eye contact. In the most wilderness countries, eye contact is a sign of confidence and activeness. We tend to assume that if someone looks away while we are talking to them, they are disinterested and looking for someone else to talk to. In many Middle Eastern countries, gender eye contact tends to be more substantive and instant than the Western standard. In some of these countries, eye contact beyond a brief place between the sex in the deemed inappropriate.
Thank you.
It's glance.
Glance is mirada. If somebody, let's see, Fatima, I think somebody has, if somebody is getting feedback on their microphone. Okay, thank you. So yes, eye contact between men and women, normal, like what we consider normal eye contact, is not really different between men and women, right? It's not considered a problem for me to look at Lina unless I have elevator eyes and I'm looking up and down like that. That would be rude in the United States. To have elevator eyes that are going like that. But just to look someone in the eyes is not considered rude, but in other countries it might be. What about in Ecuador? Any idea what you think about eye contact between men and women?
No, when we probably it may show that are in love, or
For example,
I
at
don't know.
work, if you're talking with a man, colleague, and you're looking at him and he's looking at you in the eyes, would you think that's strange? That's making me feel uncomfortable.
No,
Because I mean, it
that's
could
not
happen here,
considered.
depending on how the
no.
eyes.
Oh yeah, in that case, no, it's not considered like they are in love. Like,
So you think it's just sort of romantic then? They're trying to be,
Not really.
flirt maybe.
Not really, she says.
Okay, no.
As you said, maybe if that person is like the elevator, as you said, so in that case, that will be considered rude. But eye contact, that's common here, because when we talk, we like to see each other in a respectful way.
Well, this is an interesting
That's
thing. It says in these parts of the world, children won't look at an adult who is speaking to them, and nor will employees to their bosses. Because here, if you don't look at your boss when he's talking with you, that is seen as rude. That's impolite. But in some places, it would be seen as polite to not look at your boss. So that's a difference, I think. What do you, is that at all true in Ecuador or not? Or Peru? Or Indonesia?
the part that says children won't look
Well-
at the adult, it means sometimes when parents are talking to their kids because of their behavior, maybe parents are telling to the kids something and kids are with the eyes down, or in the culture that I am, so it's kind of rude when parents are telling something to the kids and the kids look at the eyes, sometimes this is indeed considered rude in the culture
Yeah,
where.
because they're embarrassed.
But I think sometimes here that parents, if kids do that, parents will say, look me in the eyes, I'm talking to you. Even if they're angry, they want their children to look at them in the eyes. So maybe that's a difference. Okay, so it says eye contact.
Well,
Culture. Go ahead.
in India, it's kind of rude if we don't like look at each other and talk when our boss speaks. Like we can just look at him and answer. If
So
we
similar-
somewhere else, yeah, it's kind of like impolite.
So similar
us
to
as
here, looking each other in the eyes is expected,
Yeah,
like you're paying attention.
exactly.
But I
So
think
if I don't pay
places-
attention and I look around here, there, and there, so like they take it in a they don't accept
Salir
us like
a las 7:30 ya.
as a serious person.
Ya le puede dejar a Jessica y ya viene de una vez para acá.
Paul, are you wanting to talk to us? No, I think he just muted. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Gaji? Okay. Okay, I think I'm going to go to a little video. And let's see. Let's stop this. Expand it. And I'm gonna go back to here. Share screen. It's not coming. Let me get rid of this and I'll get back on again. Okay.
I think that the audio is
Yeah, I haven't got it on yet. Here we are. Let's see.
Where are you located? Gurji, where are you located?
well, I'm from India, but I live in Ecuador. Miss
Okay,
Rosa Maria and I are colleagues. So
Wonderful.
she
Oh, so
sent
you,
me the link and I joined the meeting.
oh, good. And you're
Nice to meet you.
good to meet you. We have a lot of Indian friends here. But
Very nice.
you're
Where are you located, please?
Lexington, Kentucky
Okay.
State.
but you're teaching English.
Yes.
Of course, English is the
Is the language.
language that is shared by English and Hindi, I guess, are the language that most people in India would speak, and then they
Yeah.
must speak another language. So all you guys are multilingual. You all speak like 3 or 4 or 5 languages, right?
Yeah. I speak 5 languages actually.
Yeah.
And now you're learning Spanish.
Yeah, I'm kind of okay with that. Like I got exposed to the language and culture, and I've learned like just by listening to people and getting along with people. Miss Rosa Chikaisa and I are friends, like colleagues.
That's great.
Good. That's great.
It's good to teach overseas, and I've done that myself. Well, I'm going to play this. It's a short video about body language.
Okay.
Alice works at a local department store.
Can everybody hear that?
Yes,
Everybody hear? Okay.
yes, that's
She
clear.
spends most of her day
Yes,
interacting with customers and coworkers. There's a lot of talking involved, but there's also another form of nonverbal communication that's being used just as often. Body language. Body language is the process of communicating through nonverbal signals. It includes things like our posture, facial expressions, gestures, and more. The meanings of these all vary from culture to culture, but we instinctively read body language and interpret it as some expression of moods, feelings, or intentions. So in Alice's case, even before she speaks, she may be communicating all kinds of things to customers. For example, if her arms are crossed and she's avoiding eye contact, customers may not find her to be very approachable. However, Alice could be in a friendly mood, even though her body language suggests otherwise. And this isn't necessarily a conscious choice that she's made. This could just be how she habitually presents herself.
This is interesting, that a lot of people have habits with their body, like crossing their arms and not making eye contact. They may be very friendly people, but other people don't think they're friendly just because of that.
Yeah.
So they're perceived differently.
But if Alice is aware of these habits, she can work on improving her body language. Changing your habits can be difficult, but if you take time to pause and check in with yourself, you can start to notice them and adjust things to become a better nonverbal communicator. This awareness can also be applied to reading others' body language. Let's say Alice notices that her coworker is unusually quiet, has his body turned away from her, and is slouched over. She may pick up that he's upset, or that there's an unspoken issue at hand. Depending on Alice's relationship with him, she may want to give him some space, or ask if anything's wrong. Being aware of the various aspects of body language can make all the difference in how people perceive you and how you perceive them. Be aware of how you present yourself, and you can say a lot without speaking.
GCF Global, creating opportunities for a better.
Okay. All right. I also have a video about body language, and it's basically about how to improve yourself in business and that sort of thing by using body language to make yourself feel better about yourself. And I'm going to play at least a little bit of that. We'll see how it goes. It's not about differences between English and Spanish. It's not about how to communicate with your body, except how to communicate confidence with your body. And it is a TED Talk. Has anybody ever heard of a TED Talk? Have you ever watched those videos? I'll put it in the chat.
I like
Yeah,
it.
let's talk. Yeah, some interesting topics
It's
that.
very popular.
Okay, this is one of those.
Yeah, they're interesting.
Okay.
What we find is that
Back to the beginning. Can everybody hear this?
so I want to start.
Can everybody hear this?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to first let her talk a little bit, and she's pretty fast, and then I'm going to see if I can slow her down a little bit.
By offering you a free no-tech life hack. And all it requires of you is this, that you change your posture for 2 minutes. But before I give it away, I want to ask you to right now do a little audit of your body and what you're doing with your body. So how many of you are sort of making yourselves smaller? Maybe you're hunching, crossing your legs, maybe wrapping your ankles. Sometimes we hold on to our arms like this. Sometimes we spread out. I see you. So I want you to pay attention to what you're doing right now. We're going to come back to that in a few minutes. And I'm hoping that if you sort of learn to tweak this a little bit, it could significantly change the way your life unfolds. So we're really fascinated with body language, and we're particularly interested in other people's body language. You know, we're interested in, like, you know, an awkward interaction or a smile or a contemptuous
I'm going
glance.
to make this a little slower, okay?
Or maybe a very awkward wink, or maybe even something like a handshake.
Here they are arriving at number 10, and look at this lucky policeman gets to shake hands with the President of the United States. Oh, and here comes the Prime Minister of the... No.
Okay, I'll play that one again. It's
So
the
I'm
President of the
interested
United
in,
States.
like, you know, an awkward interaction or a smile or a contemptuous glance or maybe a very awkward wink or maybe even something like a handshake.
Here they are arriving at number 10, and look at this lucky policeman gets to shake hands with the President of the United States. Oh, and here comes the Prime Minister of the... No.
So he's not going to shake his hand.
So a handshake or the lack of a handshake can have us talking for weeks and weeks and weeks, even the BBC and the New York Times. So obviously, when we think about nonverbal behavior or body language, but we call it nonverbals as social scientists, it's language. So we think about communication. When we think about communication, we think about interactions. So what is your body language communicating to me?
So did everybody see that I have slowed down the speed? And I also put on the subtitles. You can do that with YouTube. Is everybody hearing okay? Yes? Okay.
What's mine communicating to you? And there's a lot of reason to believe that this is a valid way to look at this. So social scientists have spent a lot of time looking at the effects of our body language or other people's body language on judgments. And we make sweeping judgments and inferences from body language. And those judgments can predict really meaningful life outcomes like who we hire or promote, who we ask out on a date. For example, Nalini Ambady, a researcher at Tufts University, shows that when people watch 30-second soundless clips of real physician-patient interactions, their judgments of the physician's niceness predict whether or not that physician will be sued. So it doesn't have to...
Does everybody know what sued is? Sued is when you make a pleito.
When you make
do so much with whether or not...
Pleito. Like you take them to the court.
Could you please type the spelling?
It's una demanda.
Demanda, okay. What's pleito?
It's the fight, but
Okay.
una demanda.
Okay, yeah.
That physician was incompetent, but do we like that person and how they interacted? Even more dramatic, Alex Todorov at Princeton has shown us that judgments of political candidates' faces in just 1 second predict 70% of US Senate and gubernatorial race outcomes. And even, let's go digital, emoticons used well in online negotiations can lead you to claim more value from that negotiation. If you use them poorly, bad idea, right? So when we think of nonverbals, we think of how we judge others, how they judge us, and what the outcomes are. We tend to forget, though, the other audience that's influenced by our nonverbals, and that's ourselves. We are also influenced by our nonverbals.
I think this is a very interesting idea, that your body language not only influences other people, but it influences you. It influences how you think of yourself.
Our thoughts and our feelings and our physiology. So what nonverbals am I talking about? I'm a social psychologist. I study prejudice, and I teach at a competitive business school. So it was inevitable that I would become interested in power dynamics. I became especially interested in nonverbal expressions of power and dominance. And what are nonverbal expressions of power and dominance? Well, this is what they are. So in the animal kingdom, they're about expanding. So you make yourself big, you stretch out, you take up space, you're basically opening up. It's about opening up. And this is true across the animal kingdom. It's not just limited to primates, and humans do the same thing.
There is Mick Jagger and Oprah looking confident.
So they do this both when they have power sort of chronically, and also when they're feeling powerful in the moment. And this one is especially interesting because it really shows us how universal and old these expressions of power are.
I'm pretty sure I remember this in the Olympics. I think that was Usain Bolt who won the race in the Olympics.
This expression, which is known as pride, Jessica Tracy has studied. She shows that people who are born with sight and people who are congenitally blind do this when they win at a physical competition. So when they cross the finish line and they've won, it doesn't matter if they've never seen anyone do it, they do this. So the arms up in the V, the chin is slightly lifted. What do we do when we feel powerless? We do exactly the opposite. We close up, we wrap ourselves up, we make ourselves small. We don't want to bump into the person next to us. So again, both animals and humans do the same thing. And this is what happens when you put together high and low power. So what we tend to do when it comes to power is that we complement the other's nonverbals. So if someone's being really powerful with us, we tend to make ourselves smaller. We don't mirror them, we do the opposite of them. So I'm watching this behavior in the classroom, and what do I notice? I notice that MBA students really exhibit the full range of power nonverbals.
Okay, what is an MBA student? Does anyone know?
No.
No.
MBA,
Masters in Business Administration, I think.
Masters in Business Administration, yes.
So you have people who are like caricatures of alphas, like really coming into the room.
So an alpha is like the boss, right? Do you have the same expression in Spanish? The alpha male? That would be like the boss, or the dog that is the boss, or the person who's the boss, or the wolf who's the boss.
Alpha. Yeah.
They get right into the middle of the room before class even starts, like they really want to occupy space. When they sit down, they're sort of spread out, they raise their hands like this. You have other people who are virtually collapsing when they come in. As soon as they come in, you see it. You see it on their faces and their bodies, and they sit in their chair and they make themselves tiny, and they go like this when they raise their hand. I noticed a couple things about this. One, you're not going to be surprised. It seems to be related to gender. So women are much more likely to do this kind of thing than men. Women feel chronically less powerful than men, so this is not surprising. But the other thing I noticed is that it also seemed to be related to the extent to which the students were participating and how well they were participating. And this is really important in the MBA classroom because participation counts for half the grade.
So participation in her classes is half of the grade. So it's a real disadvantage if someone is afraid to participate.
Business schools have been struggling with this gender grade gap. You get these equally qualified women and men coming in, And then you get these differences in grades, and it seems to be partly attributable to participation. So I started to wonder, okay, so you have these people coming in like this and they're participating. Is it possible that we could get people to fake it, and would it lead them to participate more? So my main...
Do we know what fake it means? I'll put it in the chat. Does everybody know what fake it means? Means to pretend.
To show off.
Not necessarily
Kind
show
of.
off, but to pretend.
Not
that-
showing off, like pretending.
Pretend.
Mhm.
So what they're saying is they need to teach women to pretend like men.
Like they're confident.
They're confident and raise their hand.
Collaborator Dana Carney, who's at Berkeley, and I really wanted to know, can you fake it till you make it?
Now that is an expression that we use in English sometimes. Fake it till you make it. If you really don't know something well, pretend that you do until you really do understand it well. So like that's to work and not be timid.
Like, can you do this just for a little while and actually experience a behavioral outcome that makes you seem more powerful? So we know that our nonverbals govern how other people think and feel about us. There's a lot of evidence, but our question really was, do our nonverbals govern how we think and feel about ourselves? There's some evidence that they do. So, for example, when we smile when we feel happy, but also when we're forced to smile by holding a pen in our teeth like this, it makes us feel happy. So it goes both ways. When it comes to power, it also goes both ways. So when you feel powerful, you're more likely to do this, but it's also possible that when you pretend to be powerful, you are more likely to actually feel powerful. So the second question really was, so we know that our minds change our bodies, but is it also true that our bodies change our minds? And when I say minds, in the case of the powerful, what am I talking about? So I'm talking about thoughts and feelings and the sort of physiological things that make up our thoughts and feelings. And in my case, that's hormones. I look at hormones. So what do the minds of the powerful versus the powerless look like? So powerful people tend to be, not surprisingly, more assertive and more confident, more optimistic. They actually feel that they're going to win even at games of chance. They also tend to be able to think more abstractly. So there are a lot of differences. They take more risks. There are a lot of differences between powerful and powerless people. Physiologically, there also are differences on two key hormones, testosterone, which is the dominance hormone, and cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So,
okay, so she's getting into the scientific sphere here on how you can measure confidence. Does anybody have any questions so far?
what we find is that high power alpha males in primate hierarchies have high testosterone and low cortisol. And powerful and effective leaders also have high testosterone and low cortisol. So what does that mean? When you think about power, people tended to think only about testosterone because that was about dominance. But really, power is also about how you react to stress. So do you want the high power leader that's dominant, high on testosterone, but it's really stress reactive? Probably not, right? You want the person who's powerful and assertive and dominant, but not very stress reactive, the person who's laid back.
Okay, does everybody know what laid back means?
Relaxed.
Tranquil.
Yeah. To be relaxed, to just.
We know that in primate hierarchies, if an alpha needs to take over, if an individual needs to take over an alpha role sort of suddenly, within a few days, that individual's testosterone has gone up significantly and his cortisol has dropped significantly. So we have this evidence both that the body can shape the mind, at least at the facial level, and also that role changes can shape the mind. So what happens, okay, you take a role change, what happens if you do that at a really minimal level, like this tiny manipulation, this tiny intervention? For 2 minutes you say, I want you to stand like this, and it's going to make you feel more powerful. So this is what we did. We decided to bring people into the lab and run a little experiment. And these people adopted for 2 minutes either high power poses or low power poses. And I'm just going to show you 5 of the poses, although they took on only 2. So here's one, couple more. This one has been dubbed the Wonder Woman by the media. Here are a couple more. So you can be standing or you can be sitting. And here are the low power poses. So you're folding up, you're making yourself small. This one is very low power. When you're touching your neck, you're really kind of protecting yourself. So this is what happens. They come in, they spit into a vial. We, for 2 minutes, say, you need to do this or this. They don't look at pictures of the poses. We don't want to prime them with the concept of power. We want them to be feeling power, right? So 2 minutes they do this. We then ask them, how powerful do you feel on a series of items? And then we give them an opportunity to gamble. And then we take another saliva sample. That's it. That's the whole experiment. So this is what we find. Risk tolerance, which is the gambling. What we find is that when you're in the high power pose condition, 86% of you will gamble. When you're in the low power pose condition, only 60%, and that's a pretty whopping significant difference. Here's what we find on testosterone. From their baseline when they come in, high power people experience about a 20% increase, and low power people experience about a 10% decrease. So again, 2 minutes and you get these changes. Here's what you get on cortisol. High power people experience about a 25% decrease, and the low power people experience about a 15% increase. So 2 minutes lead to these hormonal changes that configure your brain to basically be either assertive, confident, and comfortable, or really stress reactive, and feeling sort of shut down. And we've all had that feeling, right? So it seems that our nonverbals do govern how we think and feel about ourselves. So it's not just others, but it's also ourselves.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. I think that's very interesting.
But I did not like when the girl was putting her feet on the table.
I think that was not a table, it was something else. But anyway, it was becoming big. It was a very interesting idea that if you just they pick people at random that say, okay, you sit like this, and you sit like this, and let's test your saliva after 2 minutes and see what changes it has. And it has changes in the testosterone and the cortisol levels, which would have to do with either more power or less power. So that to me is amazing that your body language not only affects other people, but affects yourself.
But I think body language in other countries is different because tell me the truth, if you're like this and it doesn't seem proper, right? It doesn't. It looks like you're not being polite. So I don't know. I think body language is different.
So did anybody have any comments on that? Anybody think it was interesting or disagree or agree?
It's interesting. Absolutely agree. As Mamilina said, for example, if someone is sitting in that way, I will think that person is perhaps tired, it's lazy, or it's just being rude. Because if we're talking, so yeah, you want from the other person to express their attention to you. And the body language can tell us more than our mouth express. So we can read eyes, people, or also just their movement, and we will know what that person is feeling or is trying to express. Because sometimes people express their feelings. For example, if the conversation is boring, you could make an expression like, or just. So we could notice what that person is trying to say to us, and we have to change the attitude or whatever.
Well, I think that maybe I should avoid sitting like this if it's going to make me feel less powerful. But yeah, it was interesting that they had a big physiological change in 2 minutes of doing it. But like you say, it may be different in a different culture. This was only done in the United States. So I don't know. Any other comments on this? Okay. Well, tonight we're going to have we kind of went a little long on that section. So we're going to have a shorter section on conversation. So the topic for tonight is milestones. Milestones, which means like things in your life that change your life dramatically, like special moments. Like, can you give me an example of a milestone, Lina?
When you give birth to a child.
That's a milestone, something you'll never forget.
Yeah, it changes your life.
Yes.
You can't sleep well at night, or for the good and for the bad.
And for example, when you first leave home, like when you leave your house and you go live in another place, that's a milestone, right? And what are some other milestones? I would love to have everybody talk tonight if you can, just a little bit.
Could be when you are starting a new project in your life, maybe, I don't know, you are going to start building a new house for you and things like that, new projects.
So maybe can you tell us about a milestone in your life? Just a few sentences about something in your life that changed your life and what it means to your culture and to yourself. Or maybe I should go first. Okay, I remember when I got married, and we went to the church and we had to do preparation beforehand. We got married in the Catholic Church and we had to do preparation, and then we went to the church and everybody was there and we were all dressed up. And it was a long ceremony, and at the end of it, I had this woman to be with me every day for the rest of my life. So that was a big change in our culture, of course. We hope that it lasts forever, like everybody does. But that's a milestone. And Lady or anybody, would you like to tell me about a personal milestone in your family, in your life?
Yes, I would like to ask a question for you, please.
Sure.
Um, from your point of view, it's possible to relate these strategies, no, the nonverbal language, that to improve the listening comprehension in the class for the children?
I think so.
Maybe let me give some examples, please,
Sure.
as strategies, please. In the class, when I teach the adjectives of the new vocabulary, I use some nonverbal language as gestures that I think that is very useful in the class. But my question is if these strategies maybe can to relate it with the strategies to improve the listening comprehension.
You want to answer that?
I think they do. Some of these strategies improve the listening because you can do like this. Are you following me? Is it okay? Do you understand? But you could use body language. For example, you could, for example, smiling or eye contact, and or your facial expressions. You go, damn. No, you don't say that, but you say, oh my goodness, I made a mistake. So all that improves your listening comprehension.
And it might improve just attention also.
Yeah.
Using body language can improve attention to students to make them listen better. And speed of delivery.
What do you think, Gina?
Sorry, could you repeat?
What do you think?
I think this is very useful in the real life and the classroom, and that you said the same. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So you're asking about milestones in their lives?
Yes. So would anybody like to share a milestone in your life? This is your chance to talk. We really need it. We all need to share in the class.
Who wants to talk?
Maybe if you call someone's name, it could work better.
I can do that. I would prefer to let people volunteer.
May I try?
Yes, of course you can.
One personal experience, I could say that when I quit my job, I used to work in a public school. I had a permanent job. And once I get my master degree, I decided to resign my job. And then yeah, of course. And then decided I started in a new year. I remember it was in January. I started with no job, no money, no opportunities, but with lots of ideas and projects on my mind. Since then, I started to do the volunteer work at Arte del Mundo Foundation, where I started to share my knowledge and some activities with the kids. I started to have some contact with other people from other cultures and other countries. So that's what it's a milestone in my life, and I would never forget that
Yes,
experience that
job
I had.
changes can certainly be milestones, and when you choose them, and when you don't choose them, it's also a milestone. And sometimes when you don't choose them, they choose you. Like if your job says goodbye, then that forces
Yeah,
you to do something else, which is
classmates, yeah, the classmates and authority, the co-workers, the colleagues, and my uh, authorities say, why do you resign? They were surprised, but I resigned it, and I'm happy now
good.
doing what I do.
Well, that's great. I see that Pamela has her hand up.
Pamela?
Would you like to talk with us?
Pamela S.
Well, would anybody else like to share something that you have done that was a milestone in your life, that changed your life?
Eric G. We haven't seen him because now we don't have the pictures. Eric.
Karina, I guess.
Who is it?
Okay, good evening.
Yeah.
My name is Karina. Well, I think my milestone was when I started working as an English teacher at a public institution. So it was last year. It was so challenging for me because I always work in a private high school. And so I decided to take another path and start working for Ministry of Education. So it was so hard because the place where I worked, it's a rural area. So I don't have any kind of materials to work with my students, either like technological resources, internet, things like that. And the top of that is that the students don't like English. So it was so hard for me last year. Then as a teacher, I trying to implement different kind of strategies and techniques to work with my students. So I think now I feel quite good because I can't lead with that situation. And yeah, I understand that everybody can't get rid of any kind of problem in your life.
Yeah,
that's great. I think that to say that children don't like English, well, I think that children often don't like anything that is hard.
Yeah.
And it's not English, it's chemistry, it's algebra,
or if they don't like something new.
yeah, I wouldn't take it personally.
Yeah, but it was different because the students were like kind of teenagers, so they had English in the previous years.
Right.
So they don't look like English as a good subject.
They have not had good experiences.
They might get difficult. They find it difficult to learn.
I look at teaching English as it's like you're a drug dealer, the guys that sell illegal drugs, right? That you have to find a gateway drug, something you can give them that makes them want to come back. They get addicted to it. Just something, anything that can make them addicted to studying anything but English in particular.
That's a hard
So if you can find that gateway drug that makes them want to get them addicted, it's a hard thing to do, but that's ideal if you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I appreciate your participating. Pamela says she's not able to open her microphone or camera, so I'm not able to change that. Who else would like to speak?
I think Daisy wants to speak. Daisy? No. Well, you don't want to.
Let's see, Gargi, would you like to talk with us?
Thank you, but I'm just trying to listen to everyone. Like, that's why I'm not really open to share now.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Teresa, would you like to talk with us? Any milestone?
I guess it's a hard one for people to think of a milestone.
Well, it shouldn't be too hard. We all went to the first grade. We all had, we graduated from high school. We graduated from college. Many of us are married. Many of us had children. Many of us have.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, hello. I teach in the primary school. My students, I work in rural area, and the internet is slow, and sometimes there is no internet. And my students, they don't like to speak or to learn English. And in my case, it's hard for me too. And I have to do something. I have to do games or listen to music, and and my students is learning a little English.
Good.
What should I do? Maybe you are a good professional. Maybe you have some idea about how I teach them.
Well, we have a lot of good teachers here, but I'm going to turn this one over to Lina, who taught at the University of Kentucky for about 40 years.
Well, I would ask them, why do you think we're studying English? Why do you think we have to learn this language? And maybe you could tell them, how do you think this language is going to benefit you? And maybe someone will come with an idea and that it might be good for them in the future so they can have a better job. I don't know. What would you say? All of you over there, what would you tell someone who says, I don't want to learn this language? It's not good for me to learn it. What would you say? Licenciado Toscano, what would you say? If someone said, I don't want to learn this, this is boring.
Yes, excuse me.
What would you say?
About what? Sorry.
How do you get somebody interested in learning English? I think Carmen wants.
Okay. I want to tell you that about the videos that we were.
Please turn on your microphone.
We were checking. We were watching. About the way how we communicate each other. It's important to know some kind of gestures. Well, I forgot the name of this word, but so as to communicate each other, maybe with people who are from different cultures, we have to know what is the appropriate physical, I forget the name. Sorry.
That's okay. Maybe
What
somebody
is
else.
the topic that we are checking right now?
I know. I know.
Don't worry. Somebody else can take this. I think Carmen has her hand up.
I knew what was happening. You were in another world.
Yeah, so sorry.
It happens. It's okay.
It happens.
Answering Mami Lina's question, I will say that English really changes lives. So, because English has become the language of the world. And when my students say that expression that English is not important and they're not going to need it for their lives, I usually advise them that English is, of course, very important because if they decide to study any career at the university, they will need it. Other subjects like social studies or even mathematics, if they want to become engineers or teachers or even priests, they're going to need English at the university because here in Ecuador, if they don't approve 6 levels of English, they are not going to be able to get their degrees, even though they are the best students in their field. So they will need English in their future study life. Or also, even if they don't study, if they have children, so they will need English in order to help them with their activities or homework. So English is important. Also, they could find a very good job if they're bilinguals. So English is absolutely necessary. And personally, English has changed my life. And talking about the milestone, I have discovered that I love being a teacher and not just an English teacher, because before, after getting my degree, I was not able to find a job as a teacher, but I found a job as a teacher of people with disabilities, blind people, and also people with cognitive problems. It was really hard, but after using different strategies, I learned a lot from them because being a teacher is not just teaching. We learned a lot. So I think that I became a better person because I learned from them that people who are with all their senses sometimes regret of life and problems, but they're willing of doing good things. So I learned that from them. And also now I have started a project there at my high school. I'm teaching my students to dance, my typical music, bomba. So now I'm having fun and I'm teaching my students that being Black, in my case, is wonderful and we need to be proud. We're going to have our first performance next week. And those teenagers and children, because my group is diverse, are teaching me a lot of things. So I just have realized that I love being a teacher.
That's great. I hope that everyone here is enjoying hearing you say that as much as I do. Well, I think we have all done for tonight. Is there any request for next week?
Except we ask for requests and then the next time the person doesn't come.
Well, that's unavoidable.
Usually happens.
Well, we have plenty of ideas, so there's no problem if you don't have suggestions. Well, it was really good to talk with all of you tonight. It's a big group here tonight.
Yeah, it's a big group.
Well, I hope there was something that was interesting for you.
And anything that you want to request?
The previous session, I think it was on the list that to talk about slangs and idioms or
Yeah.
idiomatic expressions, something like that, I remember.
Yeah. Yes, we had slang, idioms, phrasal verbs. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a final question.
Sure.
Is there any idiom or expression like no hagas a otro lo que no quieres que te hagan a ti? That was a question from my god's daughter.
What was?
Don't do other people what you don't want to be done. Something
it's
like
from
that.
the
Well,
Bible.
they're in the Bible. There's do
It's
unto
from-
others as you would have them do unto you.
Would you please
Do I'll
write
put it in the chat.
Yeah.
And this is directly from the Bible. It's not my invention.
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that's sort of old-fashioned language, but that's how we would say it because that's the way it's written in the Bible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll do expressions because we have new people, the new ones that we do.
Yeah, we have done those things fairly recently, but we can do them again. Not a
Yeah,
problem.
that's okay. So we do them again.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
everybody have a good week. And
Thank you.
thank
Wishing you
everyone
the
for
same.
your
Thank you.
participation.
It was my first session and I was just enjoying, like I was listening and enjoying. So.
We'll come back. We'll come
Thank
back and we'll have you
Yeah,
teach.
sure.
We'll have
Yeah.
you some idioms. Get some idioms too.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Hey, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Marta, are you here?
Yeah, you can close, no problem.
What about the recording? Should I close?
Yeah, you could stop in the more. No
Okay.
worries.